Perfect. Let's go ahead and get started. First off, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Lisa Ridenour. I'm the new program manager for Autism Society of Southeastern Wisconsin. So thank you so much for joining us today. Today, Kelly and Mallory from the ADRC Waukesha County are here to give you a little bit of an idea of some steps you can take when your young child turns 18 years old. So they're going to give some tips and tricks and things that will help you navigate that life stage. I just wanted to mention that their presentation is specific to Waukesha County. However, there are ADRC supports available in all counties. And when we post other resources from tonight's presentation on our website, we'll make sure to include a link so you can locate your specific county. And then one other thing I wanted to mention before we go ahead and get started with the presentation is we're going to leave all questions until the end. So if you have something that you want to just go ahead, jot that down, and then Mallory and Kelly will tackle that at the end. So with that, I'm going to turn off my video and audio, and I'm going to hand it over to Mallory and Kelly.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Like Lisa said, my name is Mallory, and I am a resource specialist for the Aging and Disability Resource Center in Waukesha County. I'm here with my coworker, Kelly, and we are also both part of the transition team through the ADRC in Waukesha County. So we're here today to talk with you guys about the steps and kind of what it's like when you come and you meet with us or you meet with your ADRC representative for the transition process. First of all, we do like to talk about what is the ADRC. So you can click to the next screen. So the ADRC is, I like to describe it as it's kind of the gateway. So it is the gateway to adult services, whether it's somebody in need of services starting at the age of 18, or whether it's somebody needing services 60 and older. We do offer adult services for 18 to 59 are considered one category, and then 60 and older is considered our elderly population. We have in Waukesha County, we have our older adult services that are also accessible for people as well as folks turning 18.
So what we're here for today is to talk about that transition process. So it's important to talk about what a transition is. Transition is definitely that time for learning new skills and information, making important decisions, talking about decision-making options, taking action. A lot of this can be very overwhelming and also does take a lot of time for planning. And so our hopes through this presentation is that you'll get more prepared and confident so that you can understand what it'll be like when you meet with us, and we can work through that steps together to prepare your child for adulthood. The other reason transition is important is because it can also include transitioning from children's long-term service waiver to the adult long-term care programs. And we'll talk about that through this presentation as well. So why you should connect with us is there are a lot of resources and assistance out there that people might not be familiar with. So when you contact us, you'll meet with a specialist like Mallory or myself. And what we'll do is provide something called options counseling. So this is where we talk about your unique circumstances and discuss all the options that might be available to your child and your family, and explain those to you to help you make those informed decisions. So we'll help you understand that information, talk about all those options, and walk you through those steps. The large item, though, is that we as the ADRC serve as the single point of entry into long-term care programs. So we are your go-to if you are looking to have your child enrolled into a long-term care program. So we are that gateway. So that is why you should connect with us on that point. When and how you should contact the ADRC. This is a more important piece though, because while there can be a lot of anticipation moving up into that 18-year-old time frame, unfortunately, you're not able to contact us in Waukesha County until your child turns 17 and a half. So 17 years and 6 months of age is when we would be able to start working with you and your child. However, if your child is enrolled on the children's waiver line, then what happens is they'll automatically make a referral to us. So you do not need to contact us. They will make that referral and we'll reach out directly to you. However, if your child is not enrolled, then feel free to give us a call when they turn 17 and a half. Kind of what to expect when you meet with us. So like I said, you would meet with Mallory or myself or a specialist like us. So a person will be assigned to you. We'll discuss the ADRC, all the services we can provide and kind of work through those options because we'll discuss your child's unique circumstances. We'll talk about decision-making options. We'll explore other services and resources, as well as explore the long-term care programs. We'll talk about the various long-term care programs available in Wisconsin and then specifically for our county. If requested, we would complete a functional screen as well. We'll talk to you about the SSI process. And then we also like to make note that since a lot of this information is very private, that we do keep everything confidential during our visits so that people can feel more comfortable sharing that stuff. So what to expect with us. We have appointments when we meet with you, and you can expect to have 2 appointments when you meet with an ADRC specialist. So the first appointment you'd have with us is going to be longer because we're covering a lot during that time. The visit usually is around an hour and a half, but it definitely could run longer depending on each circumstance. So in our first appointment, we'll talk about all those options, your child's unique circumstances, and work through what is best fitting for you and your family. And then if we're moving forward with a long-term care programming, we'll also discuss the functional screen and potentially complete that during the visit. During the second appointment is when we would actually, moving forward with long-term care, we would complete enrollment counseling, and that's when we would actually move forward with enrolling the child into a long-term care program so that they would have that service on their 18th birthday.
So what is state-funded long-term care? We keep saying that we're in long-term care. So that's ultimately what the program is. If we're looking at an umbrella, it's the long-term care program. And the following programs fall underneath it: family care, IRIS, PACE, and partnership. Now with individuals who are 18 to 55, they are not eligible for the PACE program. That is a 55 and older program. However, people starting at the age of 18 on are eligible for family care, IRIS, and partnership. And that comes with a couple of things that need to happen first in order to become eligible. The long-term care programs are all Medicaid-based funded programs. So what that means is you do need to be on a source of Medicaid in order to be part of the programs. So again, I kind of mentioned before, there are the 3 programs for individuals who are turning 18 besides the PACE program. There's family care, IRIS, and partnership. Each one differs in a different way. However, they all are similar in the fact that they offer services for individuals in the community. The program's goals really are to keep people as independent as long as possible out in the community. Just to kind of run through them really quick, the brief differences that I tell my families are: family care, you do get a case manager and a nurse case manager. And that works very similar with the partnership program. You get a case manager and a nurse case manager. But you also get a little bit more support with the partnership program in the healthcare area. It does act like an HMO. So if you do become interested in receiving your services through that program, we could gladly see if doctors fall within their network of doctors. If they do not, the partnership program I know in the past has worked with some doctors to see if they would join their network. If not, then the individual would have to change doctors. Then there is the IRIS program, which is completely self-directed. So this one, you do get an IRIS consultant. That consultant helps you with the budget, and they would talk to you more about that if you enroll into the program. And the individual who is on the IRIS program, or their guardian, or their parent legal decision maker, is the one responsible for coordinating all of the services for the individual. So that's kind of the breakdown of the 3 programs in a nutshell. What we like to do is when we do meet with the families, we do sit down and we talk a little bit further and more in depth about the programs. But what's nice is you also will receive handouts on each program. There's really nice side-by-side comparisons, showing you the differences between the different types of programs. So those get handed out as well at home visits, so that you guys also have something to go off of. What you can kind of see on the picture on there is also a nice sheet that gets handed out, and it is called the covered services page. And that does talk about the different programs and services and what services can be offered to an individual. Now, those aren't all the services, but they are kind of the main areas that people are looking for. The functional screen. So it is very similar in ways to the children's functional screen if your child is in the child waiver program. If they are not, the functional screen looks at the individual's ability to do activities of daily living. So that's bathing, dressing, eating, mobility, toileting, and transferring. And then it also looks in the areas of the instrumental activities of daily living. So that's grocery shopping and meal preparation, medication management, money management, laundry and chores, their ability to use the phone and to drive. And so what we do with that is we sit down with the family or the individual, and we also at that time, either when we get the referral from the children's waiver, they typically will send a list of the current medical diagnoses. But if you're not part of the waiver program, we will likely ask you for a list of current medical diagnoses to make sure we have that on file, because when we write up our functional screen after we talk to you, we need to justify to the state of Wisconsin that there is a medical need for assistance backing up that need for assistance. And so we take the functional screen, we score it based on the answers that are given in a manual that has been created by the state. Once that is completed, we put it into the system, and then the system lets us know if the individual is eligible at what's considered a nursing home level of care. Does not mean that the individual needs to go into a nursing home, but what it does mean is that if that individual is in the community, in their own home with no supports, would they likely need to have supports put in place within the next 8 weeks? There is another level of care that is below that, and that's the non-nursing home level of care. And that program would allow for just case management. And then there is just functionally ineligible. You can change the screen. Okay, so what happens if they don't meet the level of care? So like I said before, with the non-nursing home level of care, you still are eligible for the case management piece of the services. However, the individual still needs to be on a source of Medicaid to receive that. if somebody does not meet at any eligibility, it depends on why. If the individual's only medical need for assistance is based on a mental health diagnosis alone, and we can't back up any other diagnoses causing the need for assistance, an individual cannot pass our functional screen on a mental health diagnosis alone. So we would typically sit down with you at that point. Or if you pass just because you're very independent and it's showing that you don't need that level of care, we would sit down with you to see what other appropriate services are out there or programs that could help meet the needs that you do have.
So as Mallory was discussing about financial eligibility, so that's the second component. So functional is that first, but an individual does have to be financially eligible as well, meaning they have to have a full benefit Medicaid source. So it is important to talk about Medicaid because there's a lot of various types of Medicaid. All these types of Medicaid are important because not only do they pay for medical services, doctor's appointment, prescription drugs, but also it's that requirement to meet that financial requirement for long-term care services. Some of the examples of Medicaid are listed on this presentation, such as Katie Beckett, Badger Care Plus, Foster Care Medicaid, Adoption Assistance Medicaid, SSI-MA, Children's Waiver Medicaid. Because these are all so different and have different eligibility requirements, when you do meet with your ADRC specialist, they'll talk to you about these and your situation at that time to explore further what's needed at 18 or if anything is necessary. So it is common too, when we are working with individuals, that a lot of individuals are on Katie Beckett, for example. So we work with those individuals to talk about maybe switching and applying for SSI, because SSI also comes with a form of Medicaid. So why do we talk about SSI and how do we apply for SSI? So that's referring to the benefit, that's a monthly benefit for individuals with little or no resources who are elderly, blind, or disabled. The best time to start applying for the supplemental security income is 30 days prior to an individual's 18th birthday. So we'll remind you of that as well. And we talk about that thoroughly in this process, but you would call your local Social Security office to start that application. Again, 30 days prior is what we recommend. And then you also have the option to apply online, and that website's linked in this presentation. Another benefit we discuss is SSIE, and if your child would qualify for it. So SSIE is a monthly cash benefit of up to $95.99 in addition to the regular SSI benefits. There are eligibility factors in this. Some of them include expenses, living situation, and amount of care needed. If your child will enroll into a long-term care program, once they're eligible for SSI, then your long-term care program would assist with determining if they're eligible for SSIE. If for some reason down the road your child is not enrolled in long-term care, but they are receiving SSI, you may contact the ADRC of your county to complete that assessment to see if they would qualify for this additional benefit. So a lot of the benefits can become very overwhelming, kind of confusing at times. So what we have at Waukesha County is called Disability Benefit Specialists. Other counties have these as well. However, their role might vary per county, so you'd want to contact yours for that information. But in Waukesha County, our benefit specialists are really there for you guys as individuals and for your family to help you determine which benefits your child will be eligible for, provide information and assistance on that, how to obtain them, retain benefits, how to apply. They can assist with referrals. They support on matters with disability rights. They're wonderful in assisting in a lot of areas related to benefits. A huge thing that they help with is assisting with applications and information, just overall. And that's a really wide scope where they help, whether it's Medicare, Social Security, disability, SSI, overpayments, Medicaid, food share, private health or disability insurance, and housing and utility issues. And even if you have questions and you're unsure if they could assist, you could always give the ADRC a call, and we're happy to discuss that further with you. If you ever feel like, you're stuck or have questions on something, definitely give us a call and we can see what we could do to help.
Decision making. This one is always a very important discussion that we have with families. We do talk about, we always want to talk about the least restrictive decision making that is appropriate for your individual. Obviously, there is guardianship right off the bat. Guardianship is considered to be the most restrictive form of decision making. It does take away all of the rights of the individual. Typically, the individual does, though, have the right to obtain a fishing license. This is done through the court system in the county that you live in. You can petition for it privately with an attorney, or there are other community groups that might be able to help provide assistance in petitioning for guardianship. Depending on what county you live in, there may be assistance through the Adult Protective Services Agency. We did used to do that in Waukesha County. However, we only do that now unless there is an emergency need for it, or unless a supervisor feels fit. Oh, we could go back to.
So with Mallory's conversation about the guardianship, like she said, we do explore other alternatives. So there's a lot more of the alternatives that we definitely explore. That can be things like power of attorney, and that's both in the durable, which is the financial power of attorney, or power of attorney of healthcare, supported decision maker, conservatorship, representative payee. We discuss all those in great detail. However, we like to emphasize that with those items, they never take away any authority from the individual to have the control to make their own decisions. So they still remain their own decision maker in those situations, but we will discuss that we will discuss that in a lot more detail when we meet with you. If you would like more detail on that right now, there is a handout that will be attached when this is all posted that outlines the pros and cons of those. Again, if you have questions, we'll talk about that in more detail when we actually meet with you, because we'll be able to assess with you and talk about your child's individual circumstances and what might be best for your family at that time.
Housing. So housing often comes up as questions. Typically, people have really only heard of group homes. There are lots of different living arrangements out there for individuals with disabilities. Obviously, the first one is if all parties choose, they can continue to remain living in the home or remain living in their current living situation. There are low-income apartments in each county. Each ADRC should have a list of current low-income apartments that the individual could apply to live in. Then there's also supported apartments, and supported apartments are apartments in the community that are typically overseen by agencies like home health agencies. So what typically happens is those home agencies will sublet the apartment to an individual who needs a little bit of extra support. So they don't live in the apartment with the individual, meaning the caregivers. They just are on site in case the individual needs assistance with medication management or getting to the grocery store, or they need help with some cooking or just little things. But then there's always somebody on site. They're just not in the apartment with the individual. That can be supported also by the long-term care programming, can help pay for the supervision piece of that. Then there are adult family homes. They are similar to a group home. However, they can only range from a 1-bed adult family home to a 4-bedroom or 4-bed. So 4 individuals could be living in the home at a time. That's owned by a supportive agency in the community, and the individual does pay rent. The long-term care program pays for that care and supervision piece of it. Then there's also community-based residential facilities, and that's the licensing term, but it is also a group home. And so the group homes can range from a 5+ bed, so it could go to 100. But depending on the individual's diagnosis, if there is a developmental disability, there is a cap on the amount of people that can live in a group home setting. There also is the option to purchase a home. There is a program called Moving Out. It's through, they're out of Madison. Depending on the county you live in, they may have funding, grant funding, to help the individual put a down payment on purchasing a home in the community. So that is also another great resource if that's something that you guys wanted to look into. Employment opportunities. So chances are the schools have talked with parents, the individuals, about DVR, Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. Great program, can help get you started. It is not a long-term program. So they help for a certain period of time. And then when the individual is ready to go, they eventually will back out of the picture. But say the individual still needs that support that they were receiving from the job coaching or the job development, there are agencies in the community that can help support that and provide that for them. And that's something that the long-term care program can help fund. There's also Project Search that can be looked at, which is a great program as well. And that you would talk with DVR, or you could talk with your special education team to see if that might be something that the individual could explore. There are still sheltered workshops out there. They are very far and few as they're trying to get away from that. However, some people do very well in those. That's more of the piecework type where folks go to work. They do work by piece, but they're also there, and it is kind of a social environment as well for folks. Then there's the ticket to work, and that's through Social Security. So like what Kelly was talking about with the supplemental security income, what that allows the individual to do is you receive your monthly payment from Social Security, but you're also able to work and have an income. But kind of what happens is as you start to work and you hit a certain dollar amount, your Social Security will start to go down. However, as long as you are making at least $1 in that Social Security, federal Social Security money, you're still going to keep your Medicaid. So you're still going to keep that state insurance. And that's very important. If you're on the long-term care program, you're going to need to have that in place. But it does allow you to work and make an income. And yes, there have been lots of questions about whether a young adult could attend college. Shepherd's College, I know, is one of them. There are a lot more out there now as well too. And the long-term care programs can help pay for some of that. So that may be something, if you do enroll and you are interested, you could talk with the college about how that works. And then once you're in the program, you can talk to either your case manager or your IRS consultant to see how and what the financial benefit of that would be. I don't know if it covers all of the costs, but it can cover some. But I would contact, if you are interested, contact the colleges directly for tours. I do know that they do have kind of open campuses sometimes for people to come and check out. So if somebody is not eligible, now these 3 programs are specific to Waukesha County. I cannot speak for any other county, but Waukesha County does have 3 programs through our outpatient mental health clinic that help folks who have mental illness and need that support. 2 of the programs can work side by side with the long-term care program, the community support program, and the comprehensive community support program can work side by side with the long-term care program to help meet the individual's needs. But if they're not in the long-term care program, they can provide services that are quite similar to the long-term care services, but are specific for folks who just have mental illness. Each program has different criterias. Some of them have criterias of you've had to have past institutionalizations. Some have, other types of different criteria that needs to be met in order to start receiving those services. And if we get to that point and the individual is not eligible or they are interested in seeking out those services, we do either walk them upstairs to our outpatient clinic, or we do try to help them make that connection. The other piece would be if somebody was on the children's waiver and they do not pass the long-term care functional screen because of the mental illness being their only need for assistance, then we would have them go back and talk with their children's worker, and their children's worker then at that point would help them seek out these services. Kelly mentioned before, Disability Rights Wisconsin, amazing advocacy group that is there for anybody with a disability. Doesn't have to be documented. They are there to help if you have, questions, or you don't feel as though your needs are being met. They definitely can talk with you and possibly provide some advocacy. I know they do have attorneys on staff. So they're just a really great resource if you're needing kind of that.
So before we do questions, Mallory and I truly just wanted to say thank you for having us. Our goal with this is really to help your family to understand that transition process and what it'll look like. Hopefully that can ease some anxiety with this process to understand what it'll look like when you do meet with us. We'll walk you through all of the stuff we've talked about in great detail in those meetings. But remember that we are here for support through looking at different service options, looking at long-term care programs, talking about benefits, decision-making, Social Security, work, education. We cover all those areas like we discussed in that great detail. Again, a key takeaway though would be obviously we're here when your child turns 17 and a half. So you can call us with questions, but unfortunately we can't actually meet with you or start serving you until 17 and a half in Waukesha County. Hopefully though that this presentation provided you with more information to help prepare for that process. So without anything else, you can ask questions if you'd like.
I did want to pop in here and just mention, because some individuals did join us a little bit later, that we will be posting within the next week this presentation, as well as that reference quick guide document that Mallory and Kelly have created. And we'll also have a link to be able to locate your own county's ADRC contact in the event you're not located in Waukesha County. So if we don't have any questions, I want to just go ahead and wrap things up and say thank you once again to Kelly and Mallory. This was very invaluable information. We'll go ahead and get that posted so those that weren't able to make it tonight can access it as well.
Thank you for having us, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, our contact information is on the next slide too. So when it's posted, if you're in Waukesha County, all of our contact information is listed in this presentation. So feel free to give our line a call, or Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. Well, since we don't have questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording and then go ahead and end the Zoom call. Thank you once again, everyone, for your time.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.